Everything is ridiculously red. That's for certain. Properties. Configure video. Alright then. Uh, what we're looking at here is the content of which that was sort of one of the driving points, but part of much more that was driving a lot of the criticism I had of Trav. Of course, there's more criticism to be had by other people of MRN from their position, but this is where a lot of my criticisms have derived from. So I thought I've got some timestamps. Gonna break through these timestamps as we go on. But I thought I'd show one of the things that ended up, well, it's changing the format for the way we were operating. Because let's be real, and I've had many members of MRN turn around and say this to me. So I'm using their words, not so much mine. We handled Trav with kid gloves. We handled Trav with kid gloves. You know, you don't turn your back on people, ignore people, pretend people don't exist, and expect them to come around to you. Like, well, that's it. I mean, there's a point in here where it's like, show me the native org, show me the fucking like the African. It's like, what do you mean? We've been trying to do that, and you didn't want to engage. What do you think the struggle of Arizona is all about, you fucking blockhead? So let's show what he's managed to egg on with this. I can't zoom in on it, so this is the best you've got, but I'll read it out anyway. Jason Unruh raped and murdered a teenage girl in the year 1997. Don't like me publicly posting slanderous allegations against you? Well, neither do I. So I'd appreciate it if these struggle vids and trying if these struggle session vids and trying to rationalize something I said or did like a year ago in the most uncharitable way. It was like a couple of months ago. What you on about? The video I'm going to be showing is from September. In the most uncharitable way imaginable, was saved for private DMs rather than platforming literal who's in 1 hour long skits rants on social media. I think I don't know what he's trying to say there. It seems like there's some typos, but I think he may be on about me because I'm an angry geezer and he's called me crazy and schizo before personally. So because what's it can't handle the fact that someone with Asperger's, PTSD, and an extreme chronic pain disorder is going to have hypersensitive overloads in situations, and rather than trying to be supportive to the guy who's disabled, he was just on the side of healthy fuckers who are causing the issues in the first place. And everyone seems to have this problem with when they say something wrong, that if someone fucking raises their voice and adamants them and tells them that they fucking throw a hissy. Like, at the end of the day, if someone's fucking pissed someone off, they deserve to be fucking shouted at. No, I don't get why wrong with that. Unless literal is some person, this isn't a typo, but I don't know what the fuck he's on about. I work 60 hours per week. I got bills to pay, up the ass to pay. Fucking, we all have bills to pay. I'm sure your 60 hours of work a week gets more than me being forcibly disabled and only getting 5 grand a year to live on. I'm sure you get a lot more than 5 grand a year, mate. I ain't fucking wringing the river dry as using that as an excuse to dodge criticism. So I don't see where you should be either. I've got a channel to run and a day job. I'm on equivalent. Yeah, and we're criticizing your channel. We're supposed to just do that in fucking DMs. You're willing to engage in debates. Vosh is worth debating, but active public criticism is not. Behind closed doors is the escapism of those who want to keep control of the narrative. Because we come at criticisms of his politics. He come and dug some shit up on Jason, and then went and spread shit around Jason that he's done something that was already a rumor before in the past that has caused problems. This is petty behavior beyond belief, and utterly disrespectful of the stress that Trav knows Jason's fucking under because of all the shit he gets. But Trav don't have any respect. That's what this comes to show. No respect. He got treated with kid gloves. And that's the words of my cadres and MRN, not myself. I agree with them words, but they're not mine. He's treated with kid gloves. Well, no, we're gonna go through it rather than talking about it as to what it is. We're gonna actually go through the bits and pieces. I haven't got everything from the stream that I did, but I have a good portion of things of what Travers said throughout that stream I did on his stream on Jason's American Patriotism video. I got some very interesting statements. And I thought I would start with the magnum opus one because this one is the one that is indeed fucked.
We really are like the late Roman Empire. Everything's like slowly crumbling around us. Not even our military. Like, we left Afghanistan in a huff. And the reason for that is because like nobody fucking wanted us there, and because like we spent all those decades out there in Afghanistan and we got nothing to show for it. All right. We don't got no resources, got no nothing. We were staying there pointlessly. We were
Yes, we. What would you mean? No resources? I mean, it probably is another struggle. I don't know, but what do you mean no resources? Where do you think the opium come from to fucking string the American people up on opium? Where do you think oil's been coming from? Afghanistan was loaded with resources and America's been harvesting them, foreign technology resources and all sorts. What do you mean no resources to show for it? Why do you think the US empire was there, my friend? They were harvesting poppies in the fucking kiloton. They were harvesting oil in the motherfucking megaton. Like, what do you mean? What's it? You have the Taliban being armed with U.S. weaponry. That's what you have. Because they ran away. Like, they were like, well, we'll do a deployment. We'll remove them at the end of the year, and then ran away because they got fucking forced out. The U.S. military. What a fucking showpiece.
Were chased out by the Taliban, a bunch of Arab desert mountain tribals with AK-47.
A bunch of. Wait, what was that quote again? 1 second.
Got no resources, got no nothing. We were staying there pointlessly. We were chased out by the Taliban, a bunch of Arab desert mountain tribals with AK-47s on camp.
He says on camels, like this is the thing. Like, it already started off bad, or a bit loud there, me. Already started off pretty bad with the what no resources. as if fucking imperialism just went into Afghanistan, had a war, and wasn't extracting shit from there. We, Syria is a great example of how we were extracting shit without being in a victorious position. You don't have to be winning to be stealing, and we were harvesting poppies and oil in the fucking shit tons. Now, in regards to the other statement, I mean, even if they were Arab, which they're not, calling them a bunch of desert mountain tribals is beyond fucking offensive. Because I mean, the way the word tribal is being used there is as a term to imply a bunch of backwards people. Like, he's not using the word tribal as in to respect one's belonging to a specific nation. He's using tribal as a denigration of one's existence within the colonial hierarchy. But then you're calling a bunch of Pashtun people Arab. That is that's a fucking dodgy play. You know, there's the whole Persian nation between the Arabia and what's it and Afghanistan, and Islam and Arab are not synonymous to each other. Like, and an Arab could be or could not be Islamic, and a fucking, well, literally Asia proves that plenty of people, and many parts of Africa too, prove that there are plenty of people who are not Arab but are Muslim. But what's it? Let's go back to the first timestamp I've got, because I started it hot and spicy because that's probably one of the worst things he said in the fucking video. Um, okay, go back to 5. There we go.
Or the general idea behind it. Like, the main thing is you really want to understand where these people are coming from, and you don't want to just like misrepresent them and make them think. Like, my issue is, if your idea of American socialist patriotism is that we are going to preserve the state as it is now, we are going to preserve America as it is now, but we're just going to have some new SOCDEM reforms and some state capitalism, and we're going to have a new FDR and a new expanded Bill of Rights. Okay, now I agree with you. That is the kind of patriotism I'm not about, because as Jason correctly states here, the America that we know today was founded by unjust means and
Exactly.
like so on. But
yeah, whenever it echoes, that's from the
if
stream
the
streaming.
socialist patriotism means a
other
new
than a few
America,
of them,
like a
I've
new
tried to move my mic
America
into
with
a
a
more
new
better position
form
for
of
that.
governments, a
But
new
when Trav doubles off,
constitutional republic. Well,
when
not even a
it's my
constitutional,
old
but a
mic.
socialist
Shit.
republic, a Soviet socialist republic, where it is a union of socialist states together.
Okay, no, we get this type of dreaming in Britain too. No, like maybe in the far future these things will come together, but not in the way that you're thinking, especially with a settler nation like that. Like, at least with Britain, there's a relationship that can be rebuilt with a socialist state where you could have the union come together again. But that's going to come together on the terms of the different blocks within the union. That's all on the choice of Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. This is going to be the same thing with America, but much more drastic, because the natives and as they discuss with the African Americans and what they decide between them within the organization of decolonization, they're going to be vetting people, and they might be sent. They could send you all back. They could send some of you back. They could send none of you back. You don't know what going with that, but there's definitely going to be a decolonization project, and they're going to vet the fuck out of you. To be honest, fucking, if they send you all back, that's their decision. If they send Arfies back, that's the decision. They've got to decide how they want to deal with you. But the you know, regardless of how that happens, sure, someone could end up becoming
I
a
would like to
massive
say that
union
my
within.
argumentation here is not as good as it could be because, I mean, I'm forgetting to really highlight the point that the natives don't really want to send many people back. The It's not their aim, it's not their idea. Their mentality isn't decolonization, let's send back a load of white people. Their idea is decolonization, let's dismantle white power and actually have the nation be that the nation of those native tribes, that's the separate nations, the ones that have sovereignty to the land. They're not saying that fucking the Europeans that respect them and respect the people and respect the land ain't gonna be able to stay. But if you think that they have to keep people that don't respect them, that have been racist to them, that have been up for the murder of them, and all that, you this is white chauvinism. Colonized people who have liberated themselves do not have to have any of their colonizers in their country. They are they they don't have any reason to have to fucking turn around and say, oh yeah, well I shouldn't send back this person who's not past the vetting because they've got horrible links to racist crimes against Indian people or African Americans, or they're um what's it that they come from the owner class and have a massive part in owning land, etc., etc. You can't turn around and be like, well, you can't get rid of them because they've got no family in Europe or they've got no connections there. They'll be alone or on the strip. What do you mean? The person was fucking not able to stay in the country because it didn't pass vetting. It's how nations work. And if we're gonna have liberation for native peoples, it's gonna come at them having their own political control over their land. And if they decide to give land out to people, they decide to give land out to people. People don't know that they're not going to do that, or they are going to do that in the game of decolonization. It's just you saying that they should is a problem. You telling them what to do is a problem. You thinking you can manhandle decolonization is a fucking problem.
That nation, but it will never be America. It's going to be whatever is formulated by the natives and the new Africans. So, like, I gotta say, the idea that there's gonna be this Soviet socialist America, it sounds like absolute dreamworks to me, and something that would only ever breed fascism and white dominance.
And it's a new constitution, new state, dictatorship of the proletariat. If that's what we're talking about here, and we're not talking about this revisionist ideal of reforming the government and just reworking and within the states of the bourgeois state apparatus, as long as it's the latter that I'm talking about here, then I have no problem with socialist patriotism. If that's the kind of patriotism you can sell on people on, like, yeah, America as a country has its problems, and America as a country has a lot of issues. It's the big dick evil empire, but it can be so much more than that. It can transcend its old shell. It can come out from its outer shell and become something so much new and so much better. Then I don't necessarily see an issue.
My man's been reading the old books. I'm gotta say, I'm sure he's read Engels. There's so negation of the negation. Mao goes on about this too. Negation of the negation. Now, negation of the negation is the point that the socialist system is built off the foundations of what it's come from. If you build a socialist system off the foundations of America, that the scars of that society will reek through it. The Soviet Union is a good example of this. They did not deal with the contradictions of the Russian Empire as well as they could have, and Russian dominance and Russian centrism was something that ended up plaguing the Soviet Union into its later years, especially when the aristocracy did their little coup in the 50s. So we're in a sort of a funky position here,
Should have used the word
where it's like,
precarious,
okay,
would have been
you're
better.
trying to say that a new thing can be born out of it, but this is ignoring the way that socialist revolution works. Communism is a negation of the negation because you have to negate socialism because of its capitalistic elements that it still is reeked with
from its birthplace, more so on the cultural basis. This is why cultural revolution is very important. The cultural revolution is still going to be built off the foundations of what exists. Things don't come out of nowhere. So if you build it off the foundation of American patriotism, you are building it off the foundation of settler colonialism and slavery. There's no way around it.
British
It has to be
colonialism on
built on
export.
anti-Americanism. It's the only way it can survive.
With that, I don't see how that contradicts the decolonialization narrative. I don't see how that contradicts, you know, Black nationalism or Native American nationalism. I don't see why we can't have some American socialist patriotism as well as some decolonization. I don't see why we can't give land back to the natives, why we can't let these ethnic groups and these racial groups self-determine for themselves, while at the same time upholding a new American socialist republic. So
because that's you deciding that you're going to have your own piece of land, not them deciding that you're allowed to have your own piece of land. Do you not see the difference? Like, it's not about you gifting them a piece of land. That just, like, how, that's so very American. Like, why can't we just give them a piece of land? They decolonize, they have their piece, and then we still have our new America. No, 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 no. They decolonize, and they might let you have your piece. You're the settlers, not them. You shouldn't be like, oh, well, we'll give you a little bit. No, 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 no. They should be like, oh, we'll give you a little bit, cram you in a tiny place, put you on reservations. What about that? No, we don't want to call for that. They don't want to call for that. Do you know what they're calling for? They want to decolonize. They want to vet the people here and see who needs to be sent back to their fucking place of origin or who's able to stay. That's pretty much the position that's laid out. There are harsher positions, there are lighter positions, but from what I've heard and what I'm repeating, that's what is wanted. They're not trying to fucking cause some fucking mass like anti-white fucking genocide like or some shit. They just want their fucking land back. It's not even about the land, it's about the fucking prospect of it, the principle. And the fact that no revolution is going to succeed in this nation without being led by the third world, the fourth world, and the lumpen proletariat people that are in the first world, because the fourth worlders, the colonized, the third world refugees that have been forced here by our weapons and our war, and the lumpen proletariat at the bottom are the most radical and revolutionary people within this society.
Bit of a bad definitive. Like fourth world is sort of diaspora of the third world within the first world is, I guess, a way of putting it. But then there's like weird intersects where there can be fourth world relationships within like other parts of I don't fully know how to explain it all because it is quite complicated. This is this is one of those times where I wish Net was here because Net can explain it better than I can. I'm not so good with my words.
There's no way you're having a revolution in any place like America without it being led by Native Americans and African Americans. And these people are gonna have to be the ones making the decisions on this. Otherwise, it's gonna become tantamount to the white colonialism dictating socialism, which does not make sense and work at all. The fucking the colonial elements that the Soviet Union still struggled to deal with caused it many issues. And this is going to end up being the same thing with somewhere like this. You have to fully decolonize and drop the culture and put the most. You gotta put the native people of their land in control. And there's not going to be us putting them in control. There's going to be them in control and us following and leading and helping them in this struggle. With white people are going to have to be followers to the struggle because we are not the ones core on it. We're the ones who really need to sit back, listen, and fucking learn because we've been missing it all. And if you're going to start listening with anyone, you need to start listening.
33, 30. Tell I'm a professional.
Understand what each other's arguments are. But otherwise, moving on.
And that is wholly what this is about, is avoiding that. Well, they say they love America, and that's why they want it to be better, to be socialism, etc. Let me tell you something. A socialist America wouldn't even be America.
America.
The Soviet Union wasn't even feudal Russia. It was completely different.
And I like that he brought that up. The USSR was not the Russian Empire, all right? It was a completely new thing altogether. And that's like the whole point of the theory, right? Because out with the old, in with the new. The old country dies in the revolution, and then a new country and a new state and a new territory is declared with the establishment of the new. So Jason is 100% right here. If we were to have a socialist America, it would not be the America that we know it as now. It might be a USSA, it might be it might be a North American Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. It might be just like a balkanized, decentralized confederacy of unions or confederacy of republics. But it would not be the America that we know today. It would be a completely new America, new state.
I think like a point's to be missed with the Soviet Union as well. So the Soviet Union, I mean, Russia itself was a federation when it formed. Russia itself was not just one country when it formed. Like there was a consideration put into the fact that Russia was a colonial nation. Although there is still some colonial issues with Leninism that I may get into in this video. I don't know whether it dives in further into that. But the Russia itself was a federation, and the other republics were organized through separate Bolshevik groups. I mean, other than the Trotsky's takeover of Ukraine after the Ukrainian quote anarchists and quote murdered the Bolshevik forces there, and then the Bolsheviks supported them anyway for a bit, and then Trotsky went in and did a horrible massacre of people there. Can't take that away from the situation. It was fucking brutal. But the separate militias formed within these countries, and then formed national militias. They formed local militias within locales in these countries, and formed national militias within these countries, and then formalized revolutionary struggle. This is why you see places like Finland that was not a part of the Soviet Union, but was a part of the Russian Empire, etc. These struggles come together, and there was a choice as to whether people were in the union or not, and people chose for the union. America is going to end up being somewhat like this to a degree, but it's going to have to be different because it's easy for Russians to take into account their secularism and desettlerize when they're on the same land. Americans are Europeans of European culture that are settling on land that is not theirs. It's a much different situation where they have to take into consideration that they may have to leave
land that's not
that land
connected to theirs or near
cross
theirs.
sea,
like it's not like
and go back to where they culturally come from.
Is the thing with Russia, the Russian colonialism of the East. That's a contradiction that can be dealt with like very easily. Russia borders the place. It's very easy to deal with it and actually support each other and respect each other in that outright. You got to think of it from the perspective of the native. Americans, British, these British, these French, these Spanish, these German, these Chinese, these Japanese, these African. Every one of these people are all from far across the ocean, and have come over here in whatever way possible, and they've got to look at that from different angles. So they have respect for the African people because they were brought over here through slavery, and that's why you've seen a lot of African and native solidarity with each other. I mean, the Black Panthers was actually started out of the American Indian movement. But the well, it wasn't just the American Indian movement. It was people of the American Indian movement and the this Democrat competitor. They did like a competing party against
the Democrats to try and do pacifism during. I think this was during the era of Luther King, or maybe just after. I'm not sure. My understanding of fucking time is terrible, so do forgive me. But there's been a lot of solidarity between these two groups. There's been a lot of animosity too, of course, because what's it? Contradictions will always arise, regardless of how people are brought here when they're in this sort of scenario. But there's solidarity between them two groups. But the you know poor white people didn't start coming over to America until much later on. It was mainly people who had the money to be able to get on a fucking good boat and sail over there. Because if you didn't have money, you couldn't sail over with a good boat and all the good coat equipment and all the good food and everything you need to not freeze to death on your way over the Atlantic. I think people seem to forget how cold oceans are and how little money a lot of poor people would have had back in the feudal era and the early capital emergence. You saw the flee of mercantilists and aristocrats. That's what you saw into America. And these settlers come warring and they come enslaving. So, of course, you got these people that come from this faraway place that have done nothing but loom over you for what's it been like 400 or 500 years now in a genocidal intent. First, trying to do it through outright massacre, and then when that wasn't functional and Victorian humanism started to be standardized into the practice of capitalism, they went down the method of re-education, um, to make them white. I mean, this gets into the video I did the other day with the Race Classification Act, I guess. Sort of how being white wasn't just about your color of your skin in South Africa; it was also about your social standing. Of course, if you were white, you pretty much had the better social standing, so it did end up just breaking on those things. But if you looked even the halfest bit brown as well, and you got on the wrong side of someone, even if you were purely white, you come from a pure white family, you look the halfest bit brown, you can get challenged and turned into colored. Same as if you're um you're a black person who's colored. Well, you can get challenged and put into native, even if you're not even native to Africa. You could be a black Indian, but you're still dark enough that they could turn around and do stuff like that. I mean, they did things like sticking a pencil in your hair, and if it didn't fall out, well, what's it? Or if it fell out with wiggling, you see, like it fell out with wiggling. Well, that would, by South African standards, make me not, even though I'm purely white, because it didn't fall out just naturally. Well, or now it fell out normally, so now I'm white. See, I just changed from color to white in just a moment because it stuck in my hair and had to be wiggled out the first time, which is how they measure if you're colored. If it just stays in your hair, you're black, and if it fell out my hair like it did the second time, I'm white. So I've just passed the test in two different ways with the same hair on my head. So that even shows the stupidity of those ideas, but it really relates to the racist shit white people constantly at with black people in their hair. It's weird, fucking messed up colonial shit that's very abrasive. Which decolonization may go down, might not go down like that. It may just be a decolonization of culture itself, and they've got to sit and deal with what goes on with that. I can't fully scope this. This isn't my decision to be made. But the point is that it doesn't matter what they think. America is not going to be decided by white patriots. It's going to be decided by black and red anti-Americans. Well, anti-Americanism, anti-Americanists. Then let us continue.
State, new territory, and so on. And this is the reason why revolution is like, and this is why I think there's some credence with the third worldist group. It's like revolution only does, I mean, they have a point. Revolution really only does happen in like the weak links of capitalism.
It's funny as well because I do believe it was Lenin that first made that quote.
Like where have revolutions taken place historically. They've been in failed states. They've been in like parts of the world that like cannot, where the state cannot exert its will, or just capitalism is weak and it's failing the people and people are starving and suffering. So it's really where capitalism has really failed the most, where people are most willing to look for an alternative system. But otherwise, he does have a point. America has a long way to go before people want to overthrow the system again. Even though this system or this country was born from revolution, the issue is that the revolution it was
I went
born
past the
from
end of my
was a
timestamp for that bit. I was wondering why he was saying good things then. But then again, the nation being born from revolution, it was born from a reactionary revolution that was to ensure its slave-holding capacity and to ensure that it could continue its removal of the natives. Because, I mean, the British were no less genocidal than the fucking Americans. Don't get me wrong on this, but the British intent is to do exactly what they'd have done with what they were already doing with India at the time. They wanted to make a West Indian Trade Corporation out of America, which, trust me, is not going to be much better for the Indian people, the Native American people, but a lot more of their tribes may still exist today. That's sort of the weird thing that comes out of that, is a lot more of their tribes may exist today because in the horriblest way of putting it is that Britain would need the most amount of people to build the most amount of things. Britain was looking to make a slave out of the colonized world. Trust me, I am not saying that this is any much better stuff. It's just the comparison. Like, America didn't like the fact that what Britain wanted to do would have had them still living with a load of natives. They wanted the land to be as if it was never inhabited. That was the American narrative. Actually, there's a really good thing that he does say in here that I do agree with, is that if the U.S. founding fathers had the capacity to, they would have obliterated the natives. If they had the capacity to go on the genocidal war that Nazi Germany went on, they'd have obliterated them. And that's an absolute fact. The only reason they didn't manage to complete a mass murder of the natives is because they did not have the tools to do so. Otherwise, they would have used them tools and they would have gone absolutely out at it. The only reason they can't do that today is because today's environment breeds a situation where trying to engage in that sort of warfare would not pass within the country and would cause mass dispelment. The humanism has much changed in its outlet these days. Uses an intellectualist line in presenting itself, which is how it allows itself to fucking brain. Yeah, no, intellectualism these days is a lot more backhanded and undercover because neocolonialism, that's sort of the modern outlet of imperialism that come from the rise of intellectualism in the 1930s through Roosevelt. Roosevelt sort of patterned the way for modern imperialism. I mean, you could see attempts in the British Empire to make these changes, but they pretty much failed. I mean, the Churchillites kept pushing back against neocolonial changes to the empire, going on long ass speeches of "I will not give a single piece of this empire away." No, he'd specifically say His Majesty the King of Britain and the Emperor of India. Like, he'd go full fucking um uh full gumbo. Um, but yeah, no. I was speaking with a Puerto Rican cadre the other day in a Fallout stream I was doing, and um, he mentioned a good point on this, but I just forgot what I was saying. Shit. Oh, I hate you, fibromyalgia. Why'd you have to give me brain fog? Um, Speaking with the Puerto Rican cadre about it, but I can't remember what the fuck I was talking about. Fucking hell. Oh, there goes me line.
Bourgeois revolution.
Not just the bourgeois
Yeah, I was supposed to
revolution.
move forward. You know, my mic sounded like it was having a fucking bleed out there. Jesus Christ. 43.
Form of white savior mentality. Yankeedom. I don't know. I'm not saying we need to pander to Americans or anything, but there is going to need to be something that appeals to Americans if current American patriotism is bullshit and America as we know it is a bullshit project. We need to be able to relate and convert these people. And I think a way that we can do that is by appropriating their rhetoric and repurposing it and retooling it. Not in the way Caleb Maupin does, where he tries to pander to the more reactionary components of Americans, but rather like actually trying to convert people over to socialism. We shouldn't be trying to pander to these people. We should be trying to convert them. And I feel like certain things can be appropriated and recuperated. You know how capitalism appropriates and recuperates like literally all revolutionary fervor into being fucking useless? I mean, just look what happened with the Justice Dems and the Bernie Crats and so on. I feel like the same thing could be done if we were willing to push. I can't.
But like the prospect is, what does that entail? We've got to be appealing to how America has betrayed people, not trying to appeal to a brighter America. We've got to be appealing to the way America is a distraught system, and then tie them to the struggles that brings them towards the same similar struggles that the natives and African Americans go to, and bring a union of empathy. Empathy is the way forward with struggle. It's got to be about the struggle, not about a dream future. Like every time you go at people with these dream future and dream ideas, they don't fucking like it. They just think you're a fucking whacker. You'll be talking about the situation now or the problems they're going through and how we're gonna fucking deal with that. Because this is what people are gonna fucking give a shit about, is what the fuck is going on now. How are you thinking gonna do
YouTube subtitles are
with the
censoring me.
issues of everyone else? If you're thinking that we're gonna bring everyone together,
Bastards.
so if we're gonna bring everyone together, we've got to have a game plan for what happens with what we deal with now, not what the future is entailing. That's just dream work, and that just puts people off. No one wants to hear about your dream world, utopia, America world where fucking everyone gets to have their own little fucking chunk and we all get to la di da da da. No, we want to talk about the issues that are happening now and how they're going to be dealt with. And that's the same with the white Americans, that you think patriotism is the way to appeal to them. No, the issues they are going through is the way to appeal to them. Patriotism is a cope.
Stay, I gotta get to bed, but you should come into my channel, talk about Patriots. Sure thing, Connor.
Yeah,
Sure
we did
thing.
that bit. 4625.
Oh, not you. George Washington advocated for classical liberalism. John Locke. Washington was progressive at a time of his existence, but was still very much a product of that time. Very true.
Yeah,
The Green Party,
George
though, I'm definitely.
Washington was not progressive. George Washington was a slaveholder. George Washington was the richest man in the British 13 colonies. He built a system that allowed slavery to exist in the South and keep it protected for another century. And still to this day, slavery is protected by the American Constitution, actually, when you think about it. So, I wouldn't call George Washington a progressive. I call him a regressive Kaiserist. That's what I call George Washington.
or is it a reactionary Kaiserist? Yeah, reactionary Kaiserist. I can't remember the Marxian term for it. Fucking book people are gonna fucking beat me. Fucking just make sure you keep it on a good page when you're hitting me, so I got something nice to read. Because they're gonna beat me with their books. Let's be real.
Definitely left of most of what they say. I'd just rather vote than keep being silent as protests. I was a non-voter for men. Yeah, exactly. A lot of us were, but it's not enough to vote and participate. There's definitely value in participating in bourgeois elections, but like bourgeois democracy has its limits. There's only so much that you can get out of bourgeois parliament. So, anyways, point is that we need to organize outside of the context of it. And I actually have a little more ranting to do. Sorry, guys, a little more ranting to do before we continue. But basically,
Yep. I'm just making sure about the right bit. The only thing we should be using bourgeois parliament for is we should be using it for pushing anti-war struggle. Stopping the wars is the most important thing we should be pushing for, because all these buy-off, all these purchases, they come from imperialism. We should be getting in the way of imperialism, not trying to get shit that the bourgeoisie get from imperialism. Like, as much as it's great to get those struggles and those bits and pieces, as someone who has shit healthcare and is severely disabled, you know, healthcare workers are struggling their asses off to deal with the limited pay, limited fucking resources, and limited equipment, and extensive amounts of hours. And that's something that should be pushed against and pushed and dealt with. But the most important thing is not our first world nudities, because while that's going on, there's more important things going on in the world, like people being bombed, school buses and all, not just fucking, not just that, but tower blocks full of people, industry, buildings, livelihoods of people, thousands of people dying by the months, by the year, by the day. It's all the fucking time that this is going on. We've had endless war for God knows how long. And we should be more concerned about struggle in here against the imperialist forces than we should be about this promotative, uh, you know, white struggle of we're going to just build a worker state. Like, revolution isn't just going to happen. We need to be building struggle against imperialism. It's the only way that we can be using the parliament, and the only way that we're going to really get anywhere with building struggle. But then when it comes to actual organization, because people think that this means don't organize, this is not a third world position. No, an organization, we should be taking the Panther position and coming together, building up our resources, and making food projects and feeding the people. And hopefully as well then building up enough resources to acquire empty buildings so that we can house homeless people with shelters, etc. Building up a struggle.
Because is the thing that people
and
miss
helping
with
the
that,
people
because a lot
that
of
are
people will
most
try and delineate that and call that charity and dismiss it. Well, the thing with that is, charity is where you find a problem to exploit to make profits. Because think about it, they may call themselves non-profit organizations, but the people who are at the top, the executives, basically do nothing, get big ass paychecks, whilst everyone else gets a slither. And a lot of others are just volunteers, in the most case. And there are other cases. David Attenborough, in a documentary on Netflix that my mate was telling me about, actually revealed this. I think it was David Attenborough. He said, I can't remember, but it was in this documentary about the problems with the ocean, how fucked it is. And what's it? It said that the Save the Dolphins charity that is on a lot of tinned and fish food and fresh fish and other stuff like that. Well, that charity has been said to actually what's it?
work with the people who are poaching the dolphins and not giving a shit. Well, they're not even poaching them. Sorry, they're just not caring about them. They're catching them in their nets and they're letting them die. They're not releasing them back in the ocean. I can't remember what it is exactly that they're doing to the dolphins, but they're killing the dolphins, and the charity actually works with these people and has shady involvements and is essentially using it as repeat business. And this is a charity's function. They need a repeat business. I mean, imperialism has been one of the most beneficial things for charities because they have a complete repeat business there. They just have to stream it on the television and tell people, give me money. There's these people who need water in Africa. Well, why are we stealing Africa's resources? If we wasn't stealing their resources, everyone would be able to have water because they'd have the resources to build their shit up. It's the richest continent on the fucking earth. So, it really is indicative. I had a point to go in as well from this, but yes. So, what aid is in opposed to charity is I guess I'd see it as a part of the process that is necessary for building up further for revolutionaries amongst the people. If we're to go off of the Pantherite statement around the Pantherite, the Black Panther's statement around this, the best way anyone is going to learn anything is through observation and engagement. So, you know, if anyone is going to see that the people who are Marxists, or communists, actually do support the people and aren't just talking the talk without wanting to walk the walk, you gotta sort of be there for the community. You gotta do what the society doesn't do for people and provide for people, and that's how you build up respect and for the communist organization, and eventually get people willing to want to learn. I mean, for whatever political disagreements we have on certain different international politics and things, there's a great project being done in Liverpool by Shibby, who is doing a Feed the People program where he's delivering food to people's yards, and they have literature that they give out as well, and other bits and pieces, and it's not just food that comes with it. If there's a lady in the house, it's going to come with the toiletries necessary and other bits and pieces like that. And it's very well organized, considering that they haven't got the amount of manpower that would be most effective. What's it? I'm hoping to kick something off with Dublin, Engelsist. Get a food project going. Get find a stable footing. It's gonna take a process to get it up on the road. I need to be in a better place myself before I start that, because what's it? My physical health is a bit fucking poor at the moment. I mean, what's it? I'll probably be going away for a bit after this, because I've got some I got some well, I've mentioned it before on stream that I have some health issues that I gotta go and see the hospital for quite a while in the making now. But I say I'm gonna go, but this is me, and I have the fight or flight response of fibromyalgia just causes a permanently active fight or flight response. So I just have a permanently active fight or flight response. I didn't even need to make an analogy. I can just talk about my fucking disability. Oh, and this video is not sponsored by Fanta, by the way. I prefer tango. Fed by capitalism and the people who have the greatest knowledge of what capitalism does to you, the experience. And if anyone thinks anyone other than the people who've experienced this shit the most are gonna lead, they're laughing. They're laughing. Because I'm not. I don't find it funny. I find it stupid. To think that the labor aristocracy is going to be leading anyone is an absolute joke to me, but not one that I find funny, one that I find pathetic.
How many of you people know your neighbors? Just real quick. How many people of you know your neighbors? Because one issue is people talk about agitate, educate, and organize. I hear that term a lot. You need to organize. We need to organize our workplace.
I know them fairly well.
And so on. But like, how
Especially the street I grew up in as well. Fuck me. That's it. If I ever had any issues, I could probably go to them for a hand as well. But you know, do you know what? As well, I know a lot of people around the community too. But that comes along with being lumpen. Yeah, you especially when you end up buying drugs like I do, you end up getting to know quite a few different people. So this is a problem that really affects those that have had, the upbringing of being middle class and haven't had the experience of being on the streets or anything like that. Because when you're on the streets, you have to know people, you have to know your way about. Otherwise, you are just a tiny fish in a pond that's gonna get a fucking used, abused, and thrown about. Like it's a vicious world out there, and if you don't fucking get with the right people and stand above yourself, you are gonna get fucked over. But if you know what you're doing and you stick with others, and this is going to come into something he says later because of him going on about single-mindedness of people who are in the struggle of being the lumpen, which I find hilarious. There comes in the contradiction of this because lumpen people are the people who know each other and connect each other the most because you have to. You have to get to know loads of people. You have to get to know people. They'll terrify the fuck out of you. I certainly know that.
Yeah, I'm fucking it. I mean, what's it?
I'll get in situations
When I
like
was in
ended
my
up with my
shared house, I was living with this fucking scouser geezer who had this scar going down his face. And what's it? We got along for the most part, but there was it was after I had the operation on my collarbone to have my metal plate put on it. Because I had my collarbone shatter, and then a week after I'd had it shatter, and the so the A&E X-ray motherfuckers were like, "Yep, no, 100% that needs operation," and I agreed with them. It made sense. It was shattered, not broken. Broken would be just a nice little snap. That would be nice and easy to deal with, but it's shattered. Like when they stopped calling it fractured and started calling it shattered, that was when it was like, yeah, it makes sense. I go to orthopedics the next day, and he's like, "No, you can just stick it in a sling. It'll be all right. 6 weeks later, you'll be fine." Less than a week later, it was shoulder dropped. Had operation on my arm. Well, I can't remember how I pissed him off, but I managed to piss the scouser off while he was asleep, and he come downstairs, grabbed me. No, sorry, yeah, punched me twice. Which fucking what's it? I was really, really stoned, and I've been hit a lot of the time in my life, so it's not something that's completely out there for me. So my mind was confused. Let's just put it that way. So I just said, "What the fuck?" And before I could finish the fuck, I got picked up by the head and smacked off the. Oh, sorry, smacked off the smacked off the kitchen side. On this side of my head, which is on the same side as my right collarbone. Luckily enough, he didn't get my collarbone, but he did. What's it? Fuck up my jaw muscle, which is um great. I am supposed to wear a fucking gum thing when I sleep to stop me from crushing my teeth, but I haven't wore it for ages. I think I wore it like maybe 2 or 3 times. It's fucking horrible. It's worse than a gum shield, in my opinion. Uh,
Because the issue with muscle, which I very much learnt with this arm when it fucking broke, is muscle doesn't heal when you destroy it. Muscle's gone. You destroy it, you get scar tissue where it is. So between my arm here, I lost a chunk of muscle, the width of my collarbone, through it. Um, and that actually depends on where up it is as well, because it's not like the collarbone is. The collarbone's a precarious bone because it joins up with the arm. But what's it? It's It went through where my brachial plexus is, damaged my nerve cluster, so that's great too. Um, uh, yeah, no, what's it? That Scouser geezer was a bit of a scary geezer. They always used to offer me fucking quick bits of jobs to do, which I always used to like, because one of the really big pain things of when you're disabled is not being able to do any productive work. And when someone comes to me with a thing, I always end up like pushing myself with adrenaline to do it because I don't like letting people down. I always have this weird mentality that I'm letting people down. And if it's a job that's gonna fucking offer me a bit of fucking bit of weed or a bit of cocaine at the time, I was fucking willing to do that. I was on ecstasy at the time. I was a wreckhead. This is I was in a shared house. This is my just after I'd been off the streets. I was all over the place. So it was an interesting experience. I got no animosity for the geezer though. Mate, where there was someone trying to chop the door down with a machete on Christmas Eve morning at 5 a.m. That was fun. He was chopping down my mate's door with a machete on fucking Christmas Eve morning, 5 a.m. We were at like top of stair. He had his air pistol, I had his air rifle, he had golf clubs behind us just in case we failed to do anything fucking useful with the 22 or 177. I can't remember what fucking caliber they were, but air rifles. Because I mean, if you fucking get someone in the eye, or you get them in the throat, you got them sorted. And I mean, what's the police gonna say? Oh, well, no, you shot someone who was coming into your house with a fucking machete. Um, well, funnily enough, while we were pointing fucking rifles down the bottom of the stairs, his missus decided to call the police. Police told her to go speak to the fucking geezer who's chopping the door down with the machete. Mind you, this is a fucking bird speaking on the fucking phone to the police saying that a bloke is chopping down the door with a machete. You'd think the police would be like, fuck, she's putting herself at risk if she even goes at the window. We should probably go down and deal with it. They're like, oh, what? You're in the poor people area. You should go and try and talk to the guy with the machete before we deal with the situation. And that was it. They told after 40 minutes of wasting her time, they told her to call him back if anything gets worse, while the guy is still banging the fucking door. Like, these it turns out that the next morning he tried to piss through the letterbox as well. Oh yeah, not sorry. The next morning because it was early in the morning. Because it's dark. It's winter. Later on in the morning, like 9, 10 o'clock time, because his mom come down. Because this was the neighbor. This was the neighbor that was chopping the door with a machete. Oh, other than knife fight in the
Yes.
woods in Belgrave, that was interesting. But say knife fight. The geezer decided to pull a knife not because he was having a bad geezer, but because he was having a fucking an episode because of he drank too much alcohol and he was getting really stressed. I mean, this bird was chilling with him and he was fine and he was cool with it and he was chill. And this geezer just kept coming in every 5 minutes and batting him up and making him lose his rag. Next thing you know, geezer ends up fucking losing his shit, grabbing a knife and starting going off on one. And I start trying to get the knife off him and rag him down to the floor. The bird comes over and gets the knife off him, getting slashed in the process while I'm fucking wrestling about with him. And then he gets my phone off me, and then it ends up having to be a fucking wrestle to get my
That's
fucking
it. If
phone
it wasn't
back.
for the bird
The
fucking
little
grabbing the knife,
fucking
I could have got
shit.
jagged as well in the fucking
Um,
situation of wrestling. And you're in a
Funniest thing
situation
is
like
there were
that, all he has to do is get the arm free that has the knife back enough that he's got some force forward and he's got it, or at least have some leverage in his arm while he's already touching me to push up. That's all he needs. You don't want to be in a situation like that. But what's it? Fucking. I don't even understand how I was fucking the one who dealt with the situation. I have a fucking retard strength, I guess. Because I'm the fuck. I was the cripple of the group. The other three lights just stood there. It was only the bird who fucking stepped in and helped out.
there was another few blokes there, and none of them bothered to get involved. It was just me and the bird that dealt with it. Even the bloke who caused the fucking issue, fucking like, ran off and caused a pansy about other shit
Tried to
instead of
make it
helping
about
out.
himself, whilst one of our mates had just had a
An
fucking
interesting
breakdown, and
situation, especially
the only person who stepped in to help me deal with the situation and get him into a position where he was tired out, because eventually he passed out when I was trying to pin him down. um and the geezer then started trying to make it all about himself. The three of them left, and me and the bird stayed there until proper morning had reached, and then we left as well. um what's it was was a mad experience. It was a mad experience. um I still know the geezer I had the fight with as well, though. Like, I don't speak to him that much anymore, but we've gotten. Um, I think it was a little while back. We got buggered up on. I think it's oxycodone and mixed with cocaine. No, I think it's oxycontin. Not codone. Oxycontin, amphetamine, dexamphetamine, and cocaine mixed up together, and he passed out because you go one of two ways with that. Cause it's essentially made a speedball there. You go one of two ways with that. He passed out, and then me and my mate Rob were on a bit of a jig, and then we ended up livening it up with a bit of ketamine, crisp and clean ketamine. What's it? But no, I just stick to the Mary G, and well, I'm supposed to take a prescription of amphetamine, but I don't like taking them, so I just have a pot of them sitting somewhere. I don't even know where they are. I think they're in my drawer from when I got my prescription the other week. Oh, it was 2 weeks ago I got my prescription, wasn't it? Maybe. I don't know. I just know they run out soon. Not my amphetamines, my pregabalins. So I got to take the pregabalin, which is fucking shit. Don't want pregabalin.
considering that I probably wasn't the most built of the
Which
people
makes you
there.
drunk all the
I'm
time.
a scrawny motherfucker. I guess it's the autism retard strength I've been told about. Power to me.
It feels like a fourth wall break, given that I
Fun
already
stuff.
broke things
But
down
anyway,
and now I
story
can
time
stand it.
over.
How many of you seriously know your coworkers? How many of you seriously know your neighbors? And if the answer is not very well or not at all, then that is a serious problem, because people of the past used to know their neighbors. They used to know the people that they organized with. Like, we used to have much tighter social relations. People used to be much tighter emotionally and physically, but it just feels like as we've gotten deeper into the internet age and the deeper into capitalist realism and neoliberalism, it just seems like we've gotten increasingly further disconnected from one another. And yeah, we have the internet, which it's a very interesting dialectic. We're more connected than ever before.
I think I have missed. What's it? Yeah, I've just been playing through the video and not going to where I need to go. That's my bad. Sorry. I keep forgetting I'm supposed to be following timestamps here. I'm really fucking bad. Bad.
58. Oh, 8. There we go.
Also, it's also crazy that
definitely know
Jason
what I'm
Unruh has
doing.
been wearing the same red shirt and black tie for the last 3 years.
Have you ever maybe considered it's what he puts on when he's getting on the show, not something that he just wears all the time? The subtle sound of me taking a puff.
No, and yes, I am comparing America to Hitler, because Hitler wishes he could kill as many people as the United States has.
True. Actually, I disagree, Jason. The founding fathers wish they could have killed as many people as Hitler had.
Oh yeah, this is the bit I was on about
United
earlier that I
States on a
agree
whole.
with. Yeah, the founding fathers do wish they could kill as many as Hitler did. I don't disagree here, and I never disagreed before. So let's move on to the next timestamp. 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 33 seconds. To be fair, I should have typed my list rather than using a notepad, but I'm one of them old biddy retards that got me notepad. Do I look smarter if I just like hold my pencil like, all the time on camera? Like, apparently 50 to 60 was something I wanted to do a possible short out of anyway. I shouldn't have done that joke with a pencil. It fucking smelled like shit. Oh, it's like old dead wood. It's fucking Amazon selling me new old stock pencils from the fucking back end of some dusty warehouse. Ooh. Yeah, I can't seem to count. It's 1 hour and 3 minutes. Please stand by. The presenter is retarded. Well, 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Perfect.
Etc.
Hey, audience, I'm going to ask this one last time. Can you guys just tell me real quick, is Caleb Maupin and Jackson Hinkle on board with decolonialism, or are they against
This
it?
isn't
Yay
the
or
main
nay?
issue. One
If they
second.
want decolonization, then this whole video
This
is a
is the
straw
problem.
man.
It's the
I'm sorry. Like,
whataboutism here.
otherwise, I think
Someone just claiming that they want it, then they're still wanting to preach an American patriotic struggle. That's a contradictory statement. So it does not prove that American patriotism itself is a reactionary concept. It does not disprove the prospects of Americanism being a patriotic struggle within America is a colonial concept, because it is. It functions around the basis of continuing America for a revolutionary rebirth, which is not something that is going to occur. That can't occur. It's fucking entirely against the fucking natives and their struggle. It's gonna be. It's born from a colonial basis.
Jason just might be confused.
You will not fundamentally
Yes,
address what
that's
America
not
is. You cannot promote a socialist America. The concept is ridiculous.
Why not?
I don't
Because
know. It
America
sounds like
itself cannot be
Jason's actually
socialist.
answering Trav in this. Why not? Because socialist America cannot exist. Like, I want to go back to that. I like that.
You cannot promote a socialist America. The concept is ridiculous.
Why not?
Because
Why?
America itself cannot be socialist.
We'll do a new America. New America.
You would have to remove
Oh
America.
man,
Everything that it is.
got a brand new America. It's got slap a new badge on it, rebrand it socialist. Maybe even have the same borders, if I remember him saying at one point in the stream. So
Everything that it ever was. Everything that it has ever done. and build anew.
Well,
And
yeah,
that wouldn't be America anymore.
says you, it would
The
be
sass.
fucking America. It just wouldn't be the same America. Like, in the same way that Soviet Russia wasn't the Russian Empire, in the same way that the Russian Federation isn't Soviet Russia, it would absolutely be a new. It would absolutely be America. It just wouldn't be the America we know. It would be the America with a new state and a new constitution, and well, probably the same borders,
There
but
we
it
go.
could have different.
There's
But
the one.
I mean, that's the point. So
The Soviet Union wasn't Soviet Russia. Like, that's colonial speaking in and of itself. This is the problem: is that people see Soviet Union as Soviet Russia, and that's how it functions. That's not how it functions. That was the biggest problem. This is how it began to function when it started to decay. The Russian centrism of the Soviet Union post World War II was ridiculous. Tantamount to just pure Russian nationalism. But the because what we saw was this rise of this like aristocratic control over the Soviet Union after the coup in the 50s, and the rise of the military-industrial complex, which, as Gramsci lays out, is something that's intrinsically tied to the labor aristocratic class. They are the class of imperialism, as I think Lenin put it. I think it was Lenin. You know, slogans: the United Nations of Europe. What did I have to say? I've had a brain fog moment like Trav did earlier. Brain fog moment. Funny.
So I know it would be the America with a new state.
Okay, yeah, New America. Okay, no. The reason why it's not going to be able to be New America is it's just a continuation of the colonial project. Everything will have to be stripped down and torn apart. America itself will not be able to exist as a socialist concept, and it being a new America, like, this just shows me an attachment to a colonial idea, like the idea of America and Americanism, which is a poor concept. It's a European colonial ideology. Americanism is or culture. I don't know how you want to put it. Imperial culture, colonial culture. I don't know. It's hard to word it. All this fancy fucking bourgeois speak.
A new constitution, and well, probably the same borders, but it could have different borders. But I mean, that's the point. So I don't understand like what the issue is here.
The main issue is that America, by just its name, is something that is dictated by not so long ago colonialism. Like, you know, there was plenty of native land 150 years ago. There was plenty of native land. There was even more native land 200 years ago. There was way more native land 300 years ago, and there was a lot even more 400 years ago. This genocide is taking a process, and their land still exists today, and even more of their people exist than their land exists. Good 10 million people of the US is. Well, I think it's just shy of 10 million, but yeah, I'm rounding to simplify, but around about 9.5, 10 million people in the United States are native or half native. What's it? Because weirdly, America chooses to split them into two categories of native and half native, and show the statistics separately. And I've seen a lot of people who support Caleb's side only showing the statistic of people who are what's it? It sounds like such weird breed eugenic shit, but pure native. Like they'll only include like 60%, 50-60% of the native population in their calculation when comparing it to the US population. They ignore about 4.5 million people who are half native. Sounds like some South African shit, this does.
You go down into the black culture, the deep black lumpen, and none of them like America. They hate America.
Okay, so I actually want to talk about the lumpen real quick. You guys ready for my anti-lumpen rant? All right, time to
He
talk
told
about
me the other day that he's not anti-lumpen. We titled this section "The Anti-Lumpen Rant." There we go.
I have with the whole anti-lumpen theory. We will get back to the video in a moment. Trust me, guys, this isn't going to run longer than like 40 minutes at the most. But let me see. New flag, well said. But yeah, in regards to the lumpen, I just want to say this real quick because this is just something that there's a reason why Marx did not see revolutionary potential within the lumpen proletariat, because people that live on the fringes of society, that are homeless, that are unemployed, that are drug dealers. I'm not denigrating these people because they're homeless, prostitutes, or drug dealers. I'm saying that because they are in that position, it gridlocks them from class consciousness and sandbags them from class consciousness because they're not concerned with overthrowing the system. They're concerned with their own individual survival. All right?
What? Okay, so let me story time again. We're having to really get deep into this one. So when I was homeless, I wasn't just considered of my own survival. I got involved with a group of people. We stuck together. We concerned about each other's survival, making sure that we all had the bits and pieces. We made sure it did include drugs, but it also included food and water and shelter. And we made sure that we all got to a nice shelter that we could stay at too, and keep ourselves, warm at night because of the fucking winter. We all stuck together. We survived together. It's not just people who are in the lower classes just going to stick out for themselves because of the fact that they're so much in struggle. No, we're in such a struggle that most of us can't stick out for ourselves anyway. And if you don't, you end up under turmoil. But the people I was homeless with, the people who I consider family, and if they ever needed me, I would always be there for them. They're good people. They're troubled people, of course. But you take that into consideration. Otherwise, they're fucking tantamountly great people. And then I know they'd do the same for me if I needed them. Fucking troubled people, of course. But you take that into consideration. Otherwise, they're fucking tantamountly great people. And then I know they'd do the same for me if I needed them. And the thing about like prostitutes and drug dealers can be some of the most radical people you speak to. Especially when you speak to one of them low level drug dealers who are having to work their asses off all the time to stick around and keep themselves afloat. Those people who you can have a wicked discussion about on the revolutionary side of things. But drug dealers are lumpen aristocrats. They're not fucking other than the worst, the lowest of the lowest. They're really struggling. They're lumpen aristocrats, not lumpen proletarians. Lumpen proletarians, some of the really shitty cheap drug dealers who are really struggling by it, you probably might as well consider them lumpen proletariat because they're making no profit at all. But the other people who end up doing graft and shit for lumpen people or for businesses illegally and all shit like that, and are hopping in and off of agencies trying to get work and are struggling by. The disabled people that are disenfranchised and are struggling by, especially the ones that aren't able to get the disability pay and are having to struggle the way into trying to get jobs. And then obviously you've got the third world and the fourth world. These people are all in extreme struggle all the time, and they know that so many people around them are in these struggles. There's no way that we can't see it. We don't have capitalist realism giving us tunnel vision. actually we come together with the fact that there are other people having their struggles is one of the things that stops us from feeling like we're going mad. So to turn around and say that the Lumpen people are what more concerned about themselves, I find that absolutely obtuse.
I
I
mean, it's
mean,
like
what's
the
obviously
importance of the side of things is that, what is it that creates further revolutionary potential? Is it a bunch of people sitting in their ivory towers reading their books? No, I doubt that. I doubt a bunch of aristocrats sitting in their ivory towers reading a few books are going to turn around and create revolution. They've been involved in revolution, but if you know the thing about those aristocrats, a lot of them people like Lenin, for an easy example, have actually been in experienced struggles and haven't just lived their entire life in an ivory tower. And even still, Lenin is a great example because Lenin has his problems too. His language can be extremely colonial. But the what was I about to say? I had something really good then. A second.
turn around and say that
Oh
the
yeah.
Lumpen
So
people are
what builds revolutionary further? Well, I'd look to Lenin on the 1905 revolution. What's it? Might actually get that up 'cause it's a really really good quick little lecture. Because Lenin talks a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's really good. Um, okay, it's black because why have you made it unreadable? Color correction. What the fuck? Why can't I make the page white? What? No, that changes the text. I'll have to change the text red then. Fuck it. Well, that didn't fucking work. There we go. Now it's somewhat readable. For other people, I guess. But what's it? I'll be. Oh, it won't even let me scroll. Is it really that short? Okay. It just doesn't fucking work streaming it. But at least the source is on the screen. 1 second. Um, in what looks like fairly low definition. Oh man. Oh. My young friends and comrades, today is the 12th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, which is rightly regarded as the beginning of the Russian Revolution.
Thousands of workers, not social democrats, but loyal, God-fearing subjects led by the priest Gapon, streamed from all parts of the capital to its center, to the square in front of the Winter Palace, to submit a petition to the Tsar. The workers carried icons. In a letter to the Tsar, their leader Gapon had guaranteed his personal safety and asked him to appear before the people. Troops were called out. Uhlans and Cossacks attacked the crowd. With drawn swords, they fired upon the unarmed workers, who, on their bended knees, implored the Cossacks to allow them to go to the Tsar. Over 1,000 were killed and over 2,000 wounded. On that day, according to police reports, the indignation of the workers was indescribable. Such is the general picture of January 22nd, 1905, Bloody Sunday. That you may understand more clearly the historic significance of this event, I shall quote a few passages from the workers' petition. It begins with the following words, quote, "We workers, inhabitants of St. Petersburg, have come to thee. We are unfortunate, reviled slaves, weighed down by despotism and tyranny. Our patience exhausted, we ceased work and begged our masters to give us only that without which life is a torment. But this was refused. To the employers, everything seemed unlawful. We are here, many thousands of us. Like the whole of the Russian people, we have no human rights whatsoever. Owing to the deeds of thy officials, we have become slaves." The petition contains the following demands: amnesty, civil liberties, fair wages, gradual transfer of the land to the people, convocation of a constituent assembly on the basis of universal and equal suffrage. In the end of the following words, quote, "Sire, do not refuse aid to thy people. Demolish the wall that separates thee from thy people. Order and promise that our respects will be granted, and thou wilt make Russia happy. If not, we are ready to die on this very spot. We have only two roads, freedom and happiness, or the grave." Reading it now, this petition of uneducated, illiterate workers led by a patriarchal priest creates a strange impression. Involuntarily, one compares the naive petition of this present peace resolutions of the social pacifists, the would-be socialists who in reality are bourgeois phase-mongers. The unenlightened workers of pre-revolutionary Russia did not know that the Tsar was the head of the ruling class, the class, namely the big landowners, already bound by 1,000 ties with the big bourgeoisie, and prepared to defend their monopoly, privileges, and profits by every means of violence. The social pacifists of today, who pretend to be, quote, highly educated, end quote, people, no joking, do not realize that it is just as foolish to expect a quote unquote democratic peace from bourgeois governments that are waging an imperialist predatory war as it was to believe that peaceful petitions would induce the bloody Tsar to grant democratic reforms. Nevertheless, there is a great difference between the two. The present day social pacifists are to a large extent hypocrites who strive by gentle admonitions to divert the people from the revolutionary struggle, whereas the uneducated workers in pre-revolutionary Russia proved by their deeds that they were straightforward people awakened to political consciousness for the first time. It is in this awakening of tremendous masses of the people to political consciousness and revolutionary struggle that the historic significance of January 22nd, 1905 lies. Quote, "There is not a revolutionary people in Russia," end quote, wrote Pyotr Struve, then leader of the Russian liberals and publisher abroad of an illegal uncensored organ 2 days before Bloody Sunday. The idea that an illiterate peasant country could produce a revolutionary people seemed utterly absurd to this quote-unquote highly educated, supercilious, and extremely stupid leader of the bourgeois reformists. So deep was the conviction of the reformists of those days as of the reformists today that a real revolution was impossible. Prior to January 22nd or January 9th old style, 1905, the Revolutionary Party of Russia consisted of a small group of people and the reformists of those days, exactly like the reformists of today, derisively called us a seat, in quotations. Several hundred revolutionary organizers, several thousand members of local organizations, half a dozen revolutionary papers appearing not more frequently than once a month, published mainly abroad and smuggled into Russia with incredible difficulty and at the cost of many sacrifices. Such were the revolutionary parties in Russia, and the Revolutionary Social Democrats in particular, prior to January 22nd, 1905. This circumstance gave the narrow-minded and overbearing reformists formal justification for their claim that there was not yet revolutionary people in Russia. Within a few months, however, the picture changed completely. The hundreds of revolutionary social democrats suddenly grew into thousands. The thousands became the leader of between 2 arid 3 million proletarians. The proletarian struggle produced widespread, ferment, often revolutionary movements among the peasant masses, 50 to 100 million strong. The peasant movement had its reverberations in the army and led to soldiers revolting, to armed clashes between one section of the army and another. In this manner, a colossal country with a population of 130 million went into the revolution. In this way, dominant Russia was transformed into a Russia of a revolutionary proletariat and a revolutionary people. It is necessary to study this transformation, understand why it was possible, its methods and ways, so to speak. The principal factor in this transformation was the mass strike. The particularity of the Russian Revolution is that it was a bourgeois democratic revolution in its social content, but a proletarian revolution in its methods of struggle. It was a bourgeois democratic revolution since its immediate aim, which it could achieve directly and with its own forces, was a democratic republic because of it being a feudal monarchy. For those that get confused and think that this is what we need to do with already bourgeois democratic countries. It had to, the bourgeois democracy was the next stage forward from it, is what he's saying here. It was a bourgeois democratic revolution since its immediate aim, which it could achieve directly and with its own forces, was a democratic republic. The 8-hour day and confiscation of the immense estates of the nobility, all the measures the French bourgeois revolution in 1792 to 93 had almost completely achieved. At the same time, the Russian Revolution was a proletarian revolution, not only in the sense that the proletariat was leading the force, the leading force, the vanguard of the movement, but also in the sense that a specifically proletarian weapon of struggle, the strike, was the principal means of bringing the masses into motion, and the most characteristic phenomenon of the wave-like rise of decisive events. The Russian Revolution was the first, though certainly not the last, great revolution in history, in which the mass political strike played an extraordinary important part in what it may even be said that the events of the Russian Revolution and the sequence of its political forms cannot be understood without a study of the strike, statistics, to disclose the basis of these events and the sequence of forms. I know perfectly well that dry statistics are hardly suitable in a lecture and are likely to bore the hearer. Nevertheless, I cannot refrain from quoting a few figures in order that you may be able to appreciate the real objective basis of the whole movement. The average annual number of strikes in Russia during the 10 years preceding the revolution was 43,000, which means 430,000 for the decade. In January 1905, the first month of the revolution, the number of strikes was 440,000. In other words, there was more strikers in 1 month than in the whole preceding decade. Jesus Christ. In no capitalist country in the world, not even in the most advanced countries like England, the United States, or Germany, has there been anything to match the tremendous Russian strike movement of 1905. Like how he doesn't see France as an advanced capitalist country. Fucking dunked. You go have your laughs at times, don't you? The total number of strikers was 2,800,000, more than 2 times the number of factory workers in the country. This, of course, does not prove that the urban factory workers of Russia were more educated or stronger or more adapted to the struggle than their brothers in Western Europe. The very opposite is true. I don't know, I'd actually disagree with this point. I think this is ignorant to experience, because experience is the driving force of education and understanding. So I would say that I somewhat disagree here, but let's see what he has to say. But it does show how great the dormant energy of the proletariat can be. It shows that in a revolutionary epoch, I say this without the slightest exaggeration, on the basis of the most accurate data of Russian history, the proletariat can generate fighting energy 100 times greater than in ordinary peaceful times. It shows that up to 1905, mankind did not yet know what a great and tremendous exertion of effort the proletariat is and will be capable of in a fight for really great aims, and one waged in a really revolutionary manner. Let's skip on a bit and see if I can find a conclusive point, because this is a bit longer than I thought it was. Makes some really good points here, but I don't want to be boring people for ages, because we could be here for hours reading this. It's way longer than I thought it was. Again, it is a lecture from Lenin. The point that's being made. Oh, I think it's here. Nevertheless, the Russian Revolution, precisely because of its proletarian character in that particular sense of which I have spoken, is the prologue to the coming European Revolution, undoubtedly. This, well, I mean, it failed, but yeah. The coming revolution can only be a proletarian revolution, and even in an oven more profound sense. That's a typo and a half. In an oven, in an even more profound sense of the word, a proletarian socialist revolution, also in its content. This coming revolution will show to an even greater degree, on the one hand, that only stern battles, only civil wars can free humanity from the yoke of capital, and on the other hand, that only class-conscious proletarians can and will give leadership to the vast majority of the exploited. Yeah, and all those people that say he says advanced proletarians, like those CPGBML tards and all them lot. He just says class-conscious proletarians. But the gist of what's being said here is the the revolutionary potential that was built up amongst the Russian people didn't come from social democrats telling these people this, that, and the other, or social democrats themselves going and starting some struggle. It come from uneducated workers who were suffering, living a shit life, and were these uneducated workers went to the Tsar, because they've been taught all their life that he was a religious leader of their people, not a leader of big business or landowner, and thought that they could beg for a way through. But it's not just as much as that, because like it said with the statement, it goes to show that they turn around and they're like, well, you got to help us with this or we're ready to die. And they made a sacrifice. And the point that's being laid is that it was not any social democrat that plied them into revolution. It was the material conditions hand that drove them and their cultural, a massive cultural leader for them, a religious leader, to rise up and go and stand against the oppressive brutalism of developing capitalism in Tsarist Russia. So to think that the the lumpen proletariat, because of their material conditions, are gonna just be selfish, not care for each other, not work together with each other. I find that projection of what we see from the middle class. I've had middle class people who are class traitors tell me about how fucking isolated they get with both from each other in the middle class, because no one wants to no one wants to deal with you as soon as you go in there anything radical. But everyone uses people so long as you're entertaining, and if you're someone who analyzes the real world, even if you're not a communist, you're just someone who analyzes the real world, you're a problem to them, and they'll cut you out of your life because they don't want to hear any of that. Whenever I've sat down in a circle with lumpen proletarian people, when I've sat around my homeless people, we talk about all sorts of different things about life, reality, and the world. Us getting a spliff on the guan. It's sort of the ritual about it. You get together and you fucking get a nice fucking spliff on the go, and you have a fucking good old conversation about how fucked the world is, and you know what's gonna be coming next, where we gonna go to war at next, what's the next controversy coming in America, and we don't all agree politically, but we will still batter things out, and there's a joint being passed around, so you're not gonna want to fucking be a dickhead because you ain't gonna get your pass on the joint, are you? So it's the diffusal, and everyone will be stoned, so it'll be able, passive discussion, I guess. More like a pass-in discussion, you're passing the joint. Anyway, what more concerned about themselves, I find that absolutely obtuse. I mean, I was recently just up in the forest because staying a night in the woods because my mate went homeless, and I decided to go stay up there. I should be going back there today. Yeah, I did one of my Caleb videos in the woods when my mate was homeless. Chilling by the fire early hours in the morning. Out in the cold can cause me some real nasty agony, but I don't care. I'm gonna put through it because my mate's in the struggle. That's the things that we do. I was supposed to be there last night, but I fucking muts it. Narcolepsy ended up having me pass out before I could get there. Just kill it. It's not close by, let's just put it like that. The point is, we stick by each other and we do what we can for each other. We sort each other out. When my mate comes and asks me for food, I'll sort him some food. If he comes and asks me for some weed, I'll sort him some weed. If he asks me some tobacco, I'll sort him some tobacco. Drink, anything. Shelter for his sleep. anything like that. I mean, the only reason he's having to stay in the woods is because fucking he's got a lot of other things stacked
This
on his
lumping
head.
section's a long one.
Yeah, otherwise I would have him there. But he does not want to. But regardless, we stick out for each other.
Yeah, I mean, what's it? The geezer that was out in the woods actually as well.
My-
I forgot to mention this too. When I went homeless, the first thing he did was he went and gathered a load of his clothes, a load of fucking cigarettes, a bit of weed, bit of money, bit of like bits and pieces of snack food stuffed in the bag. Like all these little bits and pieces, money for the bus, in this massive rucksack, and gave me that for me to use while I was homeless to look after myself, like an absolute legend.
My mate, my mate Rob, who himself has been involved in all sorts of fun bits of business, has always stuck his head out for me. And if I've ever needed help, he'd help me out. I mean, I remember when he saw me when I was homeless and he helped me out. The idea that these people have is obtuse and disgracefully anti-lumpen, because at the end of the day, where's the struggle coming from the working class? Where's the struggle coming from the labor aristocracy? Where's the struggle coming from all these people? I don't see it coming from there. I see the struggle coming from the people who are on their asses, with nothing left but their chains to break. Marx was wrong about the lumpen, and trying to go off what some old white bourgeois fucktard said about the lumpen proletariat rather than looking to the examples that have occurred within the world around you shows a pathetic use of um, rationalism over empiricism. And rationalism is poisonous.
And within such a context, those people are going to have a very I got mine, screw y'all individualist mindset, very similar to the petit bourgeois. You know,
The lumpen proletariat are nothing like the petty bourgeois, you absolute spanner. Hello. Uh, half of it. But you're talking shit about the lumpen proletariat now. You're at the spicy point. The lumpen proletariat are nothing like the petty bourgeoisie. It's not, I've got mine, fuck you all. No, it's try and sort myself out, see how I can help out other people if they need it and they come to me, but try and make sure that we're self-sustained and that we're pushing forward. Like, there are a lot of selfish people in the lumpen. I am fucking sure of it. I have to deal with it myself. There are a lot of people who steal and all that. It
Selfish
breaks you down to
people.
that shit.
A lot of ends of
But when we
society.
come together, when we stick together,
But it comes into this. There's a lot of
we fucking
selfishness in all parts of society, and sure, you will find it in the lumpen if you just look at it as the lumpen. But the lumpen is multiple different classes. A lumpen aristocrat, yeah, they're probably going to be selfish. Sure, not all of them are. Probably will. A lumpen capitalist, a lumpen bourgeois, a lumpen petty bourgeois, they're going to be fucking selfish dickheads. Of course they are. Their business relies on it, like any capitalist. But you know, lumpen proletarians are disenfranchised workers. They are not, they're not in the same position as an aristocrat or someone like that. Why would they ever need to be dickheads when they, this is the thing I forgot to get into with the thing I was getting with the Lenin thing on is that, like, it's in our human nature to care about the pain of people because of the way empathy works. Well, the thing that breaks empathy down has been class. People that are in higher classes are more alienated from what it means to understand and operate and engage with people. It's funny, the most humanist people ideologically fucking destroying their own humanity. Well, when you're in the lower class, you can empathize with it easier because most of the shit a lot of people are going through is shit you've gone through yourself. So it's just the coming together of the fact that you know you have different experiences within a similar context. When an aristocrat hasn't had them experiences or that context, so they're just stuck.
we put our heart in the struggle, and we fight together. We look after each other. That's it. And that was what it was like being homeless. We were in a group, and we all stuck out for each other. We all had our own little benefits that brought to the group. Andy being the muscle man. Andy's a legend. And we had Dave, who was the silent type. He was a traumatized artist. We had Deck, who was the funny geezer. There was some Scottish lad, and I can't even remember his name. There was Mikey. Mikey was a legend. That's it. I can't remember the little alcoholics. Jay. It was Jay. He was a bit of a weirdo, but he had a lot of problems that got in the way he was going. He needed his head sorting out. Who else was there? Oh, there was this one weird geezer who we used to terrorize. I can't remember his name, but we used to take the piss out of him all the time. Like, he was homeless at the night show with us. But for some unknown reason why my man owned a Mercedes, like an expensive Mercedes. Had like loads of suits and stuff in the back of it and all that. Like, he was some weird like guy had just like lost out in his house or something in a divorce or something. But well, I don't know. Like people presume that maybe he just had some inheritance from a family and has bought a
I love
Mercedes
just
and
the
some suits
organic
and is trying
measure
to.
that the reason why we start picking on the guy is because he's fucking turned up here with his Mercedes. What the fuck are you doing here, you fucking Mercedes, you bastard? Oh, why you want Sam? But what's it?
Pretend like he's come from a higher class.
We weren't sure what had happened
I
with him.
don't know. We used to terrorize the fuck out of him anyway. It's funny.
Adolf Hitler came from a fucking
No, he
lumpen
didn't.
background. All right.
Oh no.
No, he didn't come from a
Adolf Hitler
lumpen
come from an
background.
aristocratic family. His father was an
Fucking
official.
what? Like, his family weren't lumpen. Remember rightly, his family were just a typical family in
Well,
Germany at
Austria,
the time. I
sorry.
don't remember it being a lumpen background. I know Hitler got lumpenized. I know he got lumpenized when he moved to Bavaria, but that
Which
wasn't
was from
Hitler's
Austria. You'd have thought
background.
I'd have noticed where
There
I'd
we
made
go.
the
See in
mistake,
the
but
chat.
oh well.
His father was an official. That's why I am remembering rightly, because because the way that I remember his story going is he got lumpenized when he moved to Bavaria. He wasn't born
And
lumpenized.
then he
You
got straight
fucking
back into
sausage.
Labour
No, he's
aristocracy
brought up it.
anyway.
He was brought up an aristocrat, and then after the war,
When he
he come
fucking
to it
got part
with
of the
powerful
Kepler circle.
bourgeoisie of an aristocrat. Exactly. What's that you trying to say about the third world? Like, we got a third worlder right here, and he's telling you exactly what it is, because it's people of the third world and people of the lumpen that know these things, right? We've been the ones who've been tempted by both sides of the tree, and we've studied into these things. And I used to be into the weird fucking what's it, fascism and national socialism and all that. And I can tell you now, anyone that's into that knows all the history of Hitler, and none of them will tell you that Hitler come from a lumpen background. They'll all tell you that fucking Hitler had a fucking prominent father. People know this shit.
Not only
Both
that, he
sides of
seeked
the
to be a
tree.
fucking artist. Like the guy was seeking out to be an artist. He come from a well-off family that fucking Adolf Hitler was not fucking lumpen. Like, there's some retarded shit right there. Like, I'm gonna just say it as it is.
So he's a communist. It makes me concerned that you, as a communist, don't fully know the history of Hitler, Trav, considering that you are very good on history on a lot of different occasions. But it seems that you slip in a bit on this one. And if we're to look at, like, if we really want to go on about things like this, how about Kim Il Sung? Kim Il Sung coming from a lumpen background, one of the most prominent and prideful revolutionaries that have been on the planet. He was from a lumpen background. He grew up in China. because the WWE was born just, is it just before or just after the Japanese colonized Korea? I think it might have been just before, and in Korea, and then they moved to China, and he was brought up in a Marxist militia, and he was reading Marxism from the age of 11, I think, and he was a guerrilla fighter from the age of 13. So we want to go on about Lumpen people. How about we go on so about like that? How about we go on about all the people who have rose up in the third
Why don't we
world
go on
and
about the Black
revolted, that
Panthers?
have come from dust. They've come from dust. They've come from the lower sections of these populations and turned around and said, "Heck no, we ain't having this anymore."
It relates to the point I was getting at with
This
the
idea that
1905 revolution. Both peasants and workers sort of turned around and had enough organically. Not because social democrats went and said, "Yo, we need to do these things, change the situation." No, 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 no. It was because of the strike the workers started and how that eventually sent ripples throughout society when the peasants had heard Wagwan and saw what was going on, and then turned around and was like, "Well, we ain't having this," and started to strike and fight up and go against the system. And then you had the peasants in the military turn around and join the peasants who weren't in the military because they're not gonna fight against them. That's their homeland fucking brethren. So they joined up and fought for the freedom of the people. It's the material conditions that drive us to further revolutionary struggle. You're not going to be able to cram that down into people so quickly.
there's always this posh Lenin type that's going to come and fucking fight the revolution, and not someone who's a little more, gritted and experienced. Is a backwards sense of thought that gets us caught in the issues that we've had so much for so long, where the labor aristocracy fucks the revolution up because they don't want their class to be dematerialized, and they know and to keep their class alive, they need a form of imperialism, which is why you had the Soviet Union evolve into a social imperial power.
Right. So the Lumpen are not a smoking gun. They're not like.
Why are you looking for smoking guns?
There is no smoking gun to
Why are you running?
revolution.
But genuinely, there is no smoking gun to anything. Looking for a smoking gun is a big ass problem. You're not gonna get things done like that. The only way you're gonna get things done is through process. And building up amongst the lumpen isn't a smoking gun. It's the first step of process. It's engaging with the most struggle-ridden people on the earth.
Like the secret.
On the earth, I mean, in the first world. My language for there. Yeah, there we go. Lumpen aren't your cannon fudders. Right on, right on, right on. Yeah, no, the lumpen are most oppressed. The lumpen are the most oppressed people in the first world. So for people to be turn around and be like, okay, well, because they're not the smoking gun, as if there's going to be some smoking gun to solve revolution, we need to just ignore that process of thought when. I come from the fucking lumpen. I was brought up proletariat, and I was cascaded into the lumpen because the way my disabilities affected my position of getting forward in life. Even though, I was actually expected to be one of the most successful of the family, from what my dad's told me. My disabilities completely threw me back and threw me down as a lumpen for the proletariat. Being lumpenized come just as I'd come towards Marxism. They basically come about the same time. I was a shitty Marxist before I'd gone through being homeless. Being homeless really solidified my Marxism and my perspective of life and my way of looking at things, experiencing the shit from truly around the people that are going through it rather than from the outside and trying to make an idea of it. Actually being there and being it and going through that shit. It's not an easy life to live. Anyone that disrespects the homeless should be smacked. It's not It's not good faith. Like, these people are going through a struggle that a lot of people, even the toughest of people, I don't think would be able to handle. It's about the way. It's not about the struggle on your muscle. It's about the struggle on your mind and the way in which you're perceived by people around you, no matter how polite you are.
Bullet. Now, that's not to say they don't have a role to play. I think that when it comes to the lumpen, if you can get them a job, if you can get them off the heroin, if you can get them a home, if you can get them to stop selling their ass.
What the like? Hear this talk. You can get them to stop this. You can get them to do that. This, that, the other. Oh my god. You got to organize around people and give them the process of, and scopeability that they would want to go down that process. You can't just be like, okay, we're not going to work these people until they stop doing this, and this. This is what I've heard a lot of communist parties say, is that they won't work with people who have to work as prostitutes. And so, well, what do you mean? Like, you're saying you want to work for the most like exploitative people, and you're going to turn down people who work as prostitutes from working with a party that's supposed to be a workers' party? Are you fucking crazy? Like, that's turning around and being like, okay, we're helping the most exploitative people, except the absolutely most exploitative workers. We're just not going to help them. What an absolute stuck up fucking thing to say. And this comes into like people who are on drugs and other shit like that. Why do
When
you
the
think
last
they're on
stuck
fucking
is as
drugs, mate?
slaves as well. Not even. I know I'm not even using that in like a very extensive way
Yeah,
to say really abused
indeed.
worker. I mean actual
But it's like,
slave.
why do you think people are taking these drugs? Because they're in a massively troubled situation. So rather than going, if these people could quit the drugs, why don't you get behind the Pantherite movement and build a position where these people can have a form of sustenance that makes them feel like their life is valuable enough that they can then detox themselves off these drugs, rather than turning around and making it some statementation of involving with people. If you really want to help the most fucking troubled of people, you got to be willing to deal with the most troubled of people. You can't be expecting these people to just fix themselves. Oh yeah, I mean, like, but proletarianize them isn't the process. They already are proletarianized. That's the thing. The more proletarianized than the first world proletariat. The first world proletariat, the white proletariat, is bourgeoisificated. I mean, a lot of them aren't. You got a lot of people who are lumpenized workers, but most of the people who are in the lower working class end up being foreigners, or African Americans, or African Anglos, or Native Americans, etc., depending on where you are in the world. I mean, what's it? It always ends up being a lot of immigrants that get forced into these lower class jobs here. The thing is, this idea that these people have, where they just want to be like, okay, we got to just hoist them out. It's like, well, you can't just be like, okay, we're going to hoist them out. We're just going to work. Boom, boom, you're coming out with us. You got to drop all these things. It's like, no. We've got to work together with. Oh, you can't be our comrade unless you become like us, but we ain't helping you. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what he said. It's like you gotta be whitey tighty, otherwise nada nada. And it's like, no. That's not how we need to be working. We need to be building up a base to work with everyone, to help foster the capacity for people to then be able to want to work with processes that we could develop around these things. And we could develop our own help in regards to rehabilitation as well, because people don't. A lot of people who even want to get rehab don't like the rehabilitation programs that are available to people. So if we're on about building food and shelter, we might as well be looking at building things like rehabilitation and other stuff like that, because eventually things are going to have to build up. This is dual power. Things build up over time. We got to be willing to support the people that are what they fucking had to go through. Like, like this is tantamount to wanting to pick and choose who you want to be the revolutionary people, rather than looking to who are the revolutionary people. So yeah, this is tantamount to what's being said here, and I don't like it. What he says
On the
the
street corner, and then you can get them proletarianized, and now you got yourself a good comrade. Get them off the streets, get them clean, get them taken care of, unlumpenize them, proletarianize them, and now you've got yourself a comrade. Now you've
See what I mean? Like you got to fit them in. You got to volunteer. You got to de-lumpenize them, and then you've got yourself a comrade. I'm sorry, they already are comrades that are out on the streets that are bustling about. What the fuck you on about? I was a fucking communist when I was on the streets. There were plenty of people that I spoke to when I was on the streets that absolutely fucking agreed with my communism. There are people who weren't, but were still willing to discuss it with me more than I've ever had an aristocrat be willing to discuss shit with me. It was a much more enlightening experience than you could ever fucking put your mind to, Trav. Maybe you should drop down to someone like the anarchists in Arizona where they're really in a lump and struggle and see what things are going on like there. Go visit the Arizona struggle. Talk about those anarchists rather than the ones you want to talk about discuss it. What the fuck you want about? Comrades.
Okay, yeah. So,
but
I
we're
would have
still
thought I'd have
willing.
made more
It
point
was
of
a
that.
much.
So, here's the thing: to turn around and be like, okay, you've got to unlumpenize people to make a cadre. No, the lumpenization is them existing outside of capitalist realism. Why would you want to pull them into capitalist realism? Why would you want to bring them into a functional society? Really, you would want to work with us to build functional society. That's what it should be. That's how you unlumpenize us. Is revolution. We're not lumpenized anymore if we have a society that gives a shit. This ends up being one of those things where you'll see like the aristocracy flocking towards this type of like, logic. And Trav's not even a fucking aristocrat. That's the funny part of that. He's speaking their fucking language well though. But no, like what's it? You do drugs yourself, Trav. You drink beer. Alcohol is one of the worst drugs on the planet. Just turn around and criticize anyone for taking drugs. Makes you a hypocrite. What's it? Oh, I had a moment then. My brain went flat. Um, yeah, no. What's it? Well, work with the Lumpen to build a new world and a new society. And it's amongst the most oppressed of peoples, amongst the most oppressed of the working class, where you will find your organic intellectuals that will help formulate a vanguard. Trav, you've been through a lot of shit yourself. Like, you're fucking someone who'd be at the front of things if you were on the right end of the stick. But yeah, it's over out here, which I imagine your ideas have hopefully changed given the current rhetoric that we and many others have been pushing about the issues of people who are against decolonization. I'd hope so. But if your positions are the same as they are here, they're fucking shit, man. Especially your positions on the Lumpen. Jesus Christ.
More enlightening experience than you could ever
ridiculously
fucking put your
offensive.
mind to, Trav. Maybe you should drop down to someone like the anarchists in Arizona where they're really in a lump and struggle and see what things are going on like there. Go visit the Arizona struggle. Talk about those anarchists rather than the ones you want to talk about in the silly little books from the past. Might be a little more interesting. Well, I mean, yeah, the use of the language backwards is a fucking disgracefully colonial term, but and then he's coming around and be like, okay, we need to de-lumpenize the people. It just, especially when you consider how many people in the lumpen are colonized, this really comes into very colonial levels of speak, where it's disillusioning the fact that the lumpen is where the most revolutionary parts of struggle exist within the first world, not the
Well,
labor
I meant to say
aristocracy
in the
and not the
first world.
proletariat. So it's the complete it's the
Because the most
complete
radical part
ignorance
of the world is the
of where
third
it is
world.
based on what it wants, not based on what is uh you know actually a very born struggle, because he's just purveyed a very labor aristocratic perspective on what the lumpen are and what they engage in. Like, here's the thing: to turn around and say that they're just bothered about themselves and that they could not be revolutionary in that aspect is completely ignorant to the way in which lumpen people have to organize with each other to survive in their struggle. And it's completely ignorant to the demographic of people that inhabit the lumpen the most. But let's continue.
You've got yourself a cadre. But while they're in that state of desperation where they're prostituting themselves or they're begging on a street corner for money, they ain't gonna be revolution at all. They ain't gonna. They're gonna be as useless. They're not useless as shit, but they're not gonna be revolutionary for shits.
Well, when I was homeless, I was working with the RCG. I was still learning communism. I was still trying to watch Jason as much as I ever got the chance to. I was absolutely pushing to be engaged with revolutionary shit. Being homeless, if anything, made me more interested in learning what was going on within society because I was in the bone and breast of it, and I was experiencing what it's like to be right at the bottom. Like, what's it? I, I'm blessed at the moment because I'm fucking able to have four walls and a roof over my head and heating on and all that. Although I've made myself massive amounts of debt that I need to sort out. The but, I'm still in the lumpen position of surviving over some money. The only reason I've got this computer to be able to do these things with you today is because of a blessed American cadre comrade, um, Devon, who sent me this laptop over.
And then Britain was like,
Absolute legend.
import tax.
But the revolution is born from the womb of misery. Sausage. uh, oh man, what? Uh, I yes, I mean that's a very. Not only does it sound like a very British insult, it also sounds very poetic. I mean, it is though. It is born from the suffering of those within the womb of misery. Is the way of putting it.
I like that statement though.
You sausage.
Revolution is born from the womb of misery.
Brilliant.
Failed societies, as Trav put it.
That's all. I think a lot of working class Americans would accept socialism if socialists could take it at easy on the left wing id poll. Agreed. I feel like the id poll, but I feel like it's also that way by design. In regards to identity politics, like, it matters, but it can be weaponized too easily, and it can be too easily used to silence the discourse. Oh, you belong to XYZ group. I mean, the right wing is guilty as fuck as well, but like, identity politics is relatively cringe. I mean, the only war is the class war at the end of the day.
I think that
So what's it? Oh, I went a bit over my point anyway. Um, class war is the predominant war. Like, if we want to look at it like that, because I mean, you could tie any and every deviation in some way in society from humans being in their natural existence to the poison of class. But to say that it's all just class, that is it just, when that's coming from someone who's European, to people who there's loads of people on here who are African, who are Congolese, etc., etc., etc. They're Filipino, it's Indian, they're Italian, they're what's it, Arabian. All these people, when they hear that, they feel like you're ignoring colonialism. They feel like you're ignoring racism.
They feel like you're ignoring sexism. They feel like you're ignoring all these other issues because you want to just boil it down to this just class war and nothing else. Well, I mean, if you just put the workers in power today and remove the bourgeois class, is that going to solve sexism? Is that going to solve racism? Is that going to even solve colonialism? It's still a class society when the workers still exist. Communism is when the working class dissolves, when the state dissolves. You know, if you can't get to that communism if you don't deal with the bureaucratic issues of society, and I'm using the term bureaucracy and its definitive of conflicts within state institutions. Like you could argue that systemic racism is a bureaucratic affair because of its inference from the state apparatus and its organization to um uh, attack people that are perceived to be um heathenous, black, because of the religious terms that are utilized to purvey racism. Um, you gotta deal with all of those issues before you can devolve the state. The state and class apparatus is flung up by these bureaucratic contradictions, and if we just let them we just cover them up or even fight against them. Well, I mean, you're not going to be able to fight against history. Let's just put it that way. And as revolution brought us into socialism, we're going into communism. Socialism is known as the permanent revolution for a reason. And I'm not using Trotsky term. I'm using Marx term. Permanent revolution. The period where there are capitalist and socialist states fighting for control over um, you know one's fighting for control over the world, the other one's fighting for freedom. So permanent revolution is the stage of socialism because you're constantly building up to a point of communism where there is no need for class, there's an abundance, um, there's no need for over industry because there's just enough for everyone's need and ease of a capacity to expand, etc., etc. So you can't turn against the side of time. Socialism will build to communism, or at least, for those that don't like the Christian terminology, will build to modern tribal socialism or neo-tribal socialism. Um, Higher stage socialism, I guess you could call it, as it would be a nice term. But and I don't use tribal in the derogatory. I'm using tribal in the term as in collective of people. Nation would be the modern delineation, I guess. Um, I had a point to make, and what was that?
Is relatively cringe. I mean, there is no. The only war is the class war.
Yeah. So, and if we don't support the ending these bureaucratic issues, we'll be trampled over by the course of history. Sorry, I just got a message. Oh, Jesus Christ, that's fucked. I can't fucking say this, I don't think, because it's someone's DMs that has been sent to me. But Jason's about to get framed for some nasty shit by the by the mopping crowd. That's fucked. That is fucked. Fucked up. It got to the point where it's pushed someone out. Someone has not been able to handle their shit anymore.
At the end of the day.
Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say. What's it? I'm sure the individual who's been watching has been noticing that I've been struggling to keep myself alert over that last portion. Because of what's it? I got chronic fatigue issues, so I'm prone to passing out, and I feel like I'm at a point where I might pass out at any moment now. I feel I may be waking up a bit more now, but I don't want to be like, oh, I'm starting to feel like I might be waking up a bit more. Try and sludge on, and then it be like the Fallout stream where I pass out for like 2 hours straight on a stream. It's like Fallout, will it crash? No, apparently it was me who will crash. But I still got I think I still got like I can count, can't I? I do know how to do that. I promise. 1, 2, possibly 3. Possibly. So I got 6, possibly 7 more timestamps, depending on if I do the other one. That's an add-on to the others. So I'll try and do that before I go off to hospital, but no promises on that. If I can't get it done, I'll pass it on to someone like fucking Dark Synovia or Luke to deal with. But what's it? I mean, you saw it at the start with the racism and the things projected onwards, and we can break down more behaviors of Trav. We can really start to try and get into the guise of him. Like, what's it? He wants to smear Jason. Well, what's it? We ain't gonna fall down to his level. No, we'll fucking fight this with the truth and nothing but the truth. And that's what I said to him as well. And in messages, I said, you know what? If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because as far as I'm concerned, what I know is the truth. What I've been told is the truth. What people have told me it's the truth. And the reason why things went public, a lot of this stuff, is because Native Americans told me to fucking make that stream. They told me to make a stream about how they don't that they're saying nada, not deliver a message to him, make a stream about it. And the natives asked me jump. I'm, unless they're making some stupid request of me, which they weren't. They were making a reasonable request of me, given their situation and the information I was given. They asked me to jump. I said, how high? That's the functionality that I operate when dealing with fourth world people and third world people and fellow lumpen cadres. And I wish there would be more respect in that light from other communists. But what's it? Thanks for those that take out the ridiculously long period of time it takes to watch out my sluggish streams, and I do apologize for my moments in this where I lost track of what time frames I was supposed to be stopping at to go forward at, because I would leave it on too long at certain points, and I was passing out as well towards the end, which as much as it's a medical issue, I don't like the fact that it throws down my capacity to give the best of analysis on the situation that I could. I hope I've presented a clear enough position on what the problems are here and why this isn't just some petty shit. But yeah, before I end the stream, one second, let me message Jason. Jason, why is he? Says you're bloody active. Now let the revolutionary sing. Let them find their rights and fight for revolution. Freedom, violence, unabashed constitution. Oh, they're killing us all. They're killing us all. Yeah, little bastard's not responding. Exactly. Um, okay, 1 second. I'm gonna restart a new thing to show what Caleb is doing to Jason. So 1 second. Not exit and broadcast.